So it's interesting, and there's just been Thanksgiving Day in America, and for some reason in Australia they take a couple of the American things like Halloween, and there was another one as well, right? It's big time. That's actually and like with Halloween, is like you couldn't have, if you're going to pick something from a society, like pick something nice, you know, uplifting, and you know, like beautiful, and you know, it's like cobwebs and skeletons and stuff. It's like, seriously. But then when it comes to Thanksgiving, which is a really uplifting and thoughtful and caring, and you know, time to thank people and think about your situation in life, and you know, express gratitude and everything. No, we're not going to copy that one. Don't bring any light and love over here. You know? It's pretty strange, don't you think? So I thought I'd talk a little bit about Thanksgiving. So you know, like we should stop, and I mean, you know, Thanksgiving's one day, right? But I think there's quite a lead up to it. It's a really big deal. And at least it's one day a year where people potentially stop and think about what they're grateful for, what they're thankful for. You know, so it's like, it's really, I mean, that's super good, right? To spend that time and just being thoughtful and thankful and appreciative. And so in our lives, sometimes we can be, has it gone off? Yeah. Thanks.
But you sound like you're straining.
Okay. Thank you. So sometimes in our lives, you know, we can be, like on a moment-to-moment basis even, you know, we can get caught up and just kind of like wallow in something that's going on in our life, or something that's not going on that we would like to go on. Do you know what I mean? And we can just kind of get caught in that and be just not feeling grateful, right? Not feeling grateful for what we've been given. And also grateful for what we don't have. You know, like if you don't have cancer, you can be really grateful for that, right? It's pretty rampant in our society. You know, so there's the positive side, and there's also the kind of, I don't know if you can call it a negative side, the things we're grateful to not have. You know, like in South Australia at the moment, you know, there are no floods yet, no bushfires. You know, the weather's pretty up and down, but, you know, it's pretty good. You know, I mean, generally speaking, life's pretty easy for most of us, superficially at least. And so whatever we're going through, whatever challenges we might be going through, at least one day a year, but preferably every day, we stop and we think about what we can be thankful for. And so I did that. I stopped and I thought, what am I thankful for? And the first thing that came to my mind was my spiritual teacher. Hearing these teachings that I try and pass on every Friday and Sunday. You know, I've learnt these from my spiritual teacher. And for that, I'm really thankful. Because without this Vedic wisdom, spiritual knowledge, I mean, personally, I have no life, right? That's why I was looking in the first place. You know, I found life to be, nothing was wrong for me personally. Nothing was wrong in my life. I had it really easy. You know, it was back in the day when, you know, I could work 6 months of the year and hitchhike 6 months of the year. And a really bad track record, I could still get a job. You know, where have you been? Well, I've been hitchhiking around, but before that I had a job for 6 months, and before that I hitchhiked around. And I would still get a job, so that was in those days, right? And so everything was fine. I was, you know, footloose and fancy-free, didn't have any, you know, health issues, anything, right? But I still had this deep feeling like, my God, there's got to be some meaning for life, right? There's got to be some purpose to all this. You can't just be here on this planet and, you know, experience all these different things and develop attachments and relationships and everything, and then die and it's all just ripped away from you. It's like that made no sense to me whatsoever. So I had so many different questions, and when I came across my spiritual teacher, every single question was answered with such clarity and such logic and like so much wisdom that it completely transformed my life. And it's like I had real purpose. I understood now some fundamental truths, and that's what I wanted to talk about tonight, some fundamental truths that when we have these, no matter what's going on in our life, we'll be able to cope. We'll be able to have a deep sense of peace and a sense of happiness and contentment that will carry us through everything. And one of the things my teacher has said is that with this process of meditation, chanting these sacred mantras, you'll become happy in this life and the next. Okay? Can't get anything better than that, right? This life and the next. And the next should be, if we're smart, back home in the spiritual world. Right? That should be our next life, not coming back here again. And so the fundamental truths that we can all be grateful and appreciative of hearing, I try and talk about them probably every week. You might think, doesn't she think I know this already? They're number one, you're not this body. When we know we're not this physical body, and we're not our subtle body, the mind, then that changes everything in life, because we can understand I'm not going to find the happiness that I seek in something for my body or even mental stimulation. It's not going to work because I'm a different energy altogether. I'm a spiritual being. So nothing material can ever satisfy me. So that's number one, right? And so then it's kind of makes it more simple when you're looking for, you might be feeling like, there's an emptiness, and society will tell you, Black Friday, Saturday and Sunday, go shopping, that'll do it. You'll get happy and you buy these things, So you'll know, no, I don't believe you. I can save my money. I'm not going to fall for that one, right? So, number one, I'm not the body and I'm not the mind. And number two, I'm not the body and the mind, I'm an eternal spiritual being. I'm the life within this body. And knowing that, I can be super grateful for that. I am the living being, a spiritual spark within this body. And as a spiritual being, am I God? Obviously not. We wouldn't be here in this material world going through whatever we go through. So we're spiritual in essence, but we're obviously not the Supreme Spirit. We're part and parcel of the Supreme Spirit Soul. There is a Supreme Being, and that Supreme Being, that's where we've come from. Krishna is the source of all spiritual and material worlds. In an ancient Srimad Bhagavatam, this is compiled 5,000 years ago, and before that it was spoken orally, describes Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the cause of all causes. Right? Everything we look for a cause, right? And what was the cause of that? Say, like for an accident, right? Okay, what was the cause of that? Again, what was the cause of that? And what was the cause? So you look back, what's the original cause of everything? Krishna. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is the cause of all causes. He is past, present, and future. He is both movable and immovable. He is the greatest and the smallest. He is visible and directly experienced. He is celebrated in the Vedic literature. Everything comes from Krishna, and without him, there is no existence. Okay? So we all come from the Supreme Person. And knowing that, we have an original cause, So we're spiritual beings, we're not this body and not the mind, we're not God, and we're part and parcel of the Supreme Soul. And with that understanding, the next part of that is, what is my natural function in life? Instead of thinking my natural function is trying to enjoy my senses, I can understand as a spiritual being my natural function is to render loving service to the Supreme Soul. And all living beings are part of the Supreme Soul, so I can render service to them also. And the process, Krishna also gives us a process to follow, to come to this understanding, so it's not just an intellectual understanding, but a deep spiritual understanding. It's a knowing. Do you mean there's a difference between kind of intellectually understanding something and really knowing something? And so the next thing that we're being blessed to have received are these sacred mantras, these bona fide spiritual sounds that can touch us in the core of our being. They can reawaken the understanding of our deep and long lost relationship with the Supreme Soul. They have the power to cleanse all the layers of conditioning and simultaneously give us that spiritual taste of love for the Supreme Soul that we're always hankering for. So no matter what's going on in your life, if you can remember these 5 things, then it's like, okay, this world's passing. Everything that happens here, it's temporary. This body is temporary. The relationships are temporary. The whole world is temporary. It seems like it's been here a really long time, and it has. But it's still temporary. It's not the eternal spiritual world. The eternal spiritual world is another world altogether. And that's the world that we should want to go home to. That's the world that we should be striving to go towards. And we can't just go, well, I want to go there, I don't want to live here. You know, this place sucks. You know, I mean, on a good day, everything's fine, but you know, other times it's like, it's not that great, you know. And so it's not about me wanting to go there, right? It's actually about me each one of us having a deep and personal relationship with the Supreme Soul. And when we're ready, he invites us home anyway. But we do need to kind of clean up our act, so to speak. Be free from all our self-centeredness and all our material desires and everything. And Krishna will help us. You know, we take one step towards God, He'll take thousands of steps towards us, because he wants us to come home. He wants to relate to us in love. He wants to have that relationship. It's us who are turned away. So, you know, when we chant these mantras and try and actually really rest our heart and mind on them, you know, and don't just space out and kind of superficially be meditating, but, you know, really try and keep our focus and rest our heart and mind in these mantras. And we will gradually, more and more, experience the reality of these truths and that happiness that's already there in the core of our heart. Right? Like my teacher said, you can be happy in this world and the next, when we know who we are. So these things we can be grateful for. Thank you so much.